Okay, for all the problems, you need to show your steps. That's for all of them. Okay, I'm going to skip number 1. I'll do another problem just like it on the other side, and then you can do this one later. Okay, let's go on to number 2. It says the scale on a map is 1 centimeter is equal to 6 kilometers. So 1 centimeter on the map is 6 kilometers in real life. If 2 cities are 11 centimeters apart on the map, what's the actual distance between the cities? So what we have here is a proportion. 1 centimeter and 6 kilometers. 1 centimeter, 6 kilometers. 1 centimeter to 6 kilometers as 11 centimeters is to what? We don't know this. It says, what's the actual distance in kilometers? Okay, you can probably look at this and tell the answer. You can see that 1 times something is 11. So you use that same number. 6 times that number is blank. Okay, but that's one way of doing it. And that's the best way for this problem. Another way is simply this. And you can do this with harder problems, more difficult ones. The number diagonal of the variable x, that always goes on the bottom. The other 2 numbers go on top. 6 and 11. 6 times 11. Okay, so that's a shortcut. And 6 times 11 is 66. So our answer is 66 kilometers. And again, you could have just said 1 times 11 is 11. 6 times 11 is 66. And you'd come out with the same answer, 66. Okay, I'm going to skip 3. I'll do another one like this. You can do this one later. Number 4, it says, Emma has already read 6 of 20 books on her summer reading list. What percent of the books on her list has she read? So in other words, what percent is 6 out of 20? So we want to take this fraction and make it a percent. First, let's reduce it as much as possible. I know that 2 will go into 6. 2 goes into there 3 times, and 2 goes into 20, 10. So 3/10. Now you should be able to look at 3/10 and figure out what percent that is. If you got 3 out of 10, what percentage is that? But let's go ahead and, if you didn't know that, you would simply divide. Take the top number that goes into the box there. The outside number is 10. So 10, you have to put the decimal, bring it straight up. Add a 0. 10 does not go into 3, but 10 goes into 30 3 times, right? 3 times 10 is 30. You have nothing left over. And you just move the decimal over 2 spaces, and there's your percent. So really what it comes down to is your percentage is 30%. So she has read 30% of the books so far. And on a test, if you get 3 out of 10, hey, that would be 30%. Okay, it says write the percent, excuse me, as a fraction or a mixed number in simplest form. No, you can't. That's as far as you can go. 12 over 25. So we put it as we change this percentage into a fraction, a reduced fraction. Okay, number 7, round to the nearest tenth where solve, round to the nearest tenth where necessary. You know what, we'll just go to the regular ones. Okay, so we're going to find what is 35% of 63. Number 7, what is 35% of 63? Okay, quickly I want to show you remind you of the 3 ways that we can find percentage. One of them is using proportions. Remember the is of percent 100. So 35% That's your percent number up here, 35. Of 63, that's the of number down here, and you don't know that. And then remember, when setting these up, that the number diagonal of x goes on the bottom, and the other two go on top. 63 times 35. And then from here you can multiply them out, reduce, and multiply them all out. Okay, that's one method. The other method is you can count up just by using 10% and 1%, 5%, that sort of thing. Count up percentages. 10%, we know you just move the decimal over 1. So it's 6.3. 10% is 6.3, 10% is 6.3. 5% is half of 6.3. Half of 6 is 3. And half of 30, think of this as being 30, is 15. Okay, and then you'd add that all up, and that would give you 35% of 63. That's another method. The most common method is to simply change 35% to a decimal and multiply it times 63. That's the most common method. You know what, I'll just do that method real quick. 5 times 3 is 15, 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 makes 31. Space holder, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 6 is 18. Add them up. 5, 10, carry the 1, that's 12. That's 2. Move the decimal over 2 spaces. And there you go. 22.05. Okay, so that is 35% of 63. Okay, you could do number 8, which is just like that. Number 9, you can do that one. I'll do 10, which is just like 9. I'll do 10 right now. Okay, on number 10, it says, find the percent of decrease from 280 to 210. Then round to the nearest tenth of a percent if necessary. Okay, in case you forgot how to do that, just a reminder, you take the difference of the two numbers. Okay, you subtract them over, make it a fraction, over the starting number, which was 280. And then you change that fraction into a percentage. So basically I have 280 minus 210, the difference of the two, 280 minus 210, all over the starting number. The starting number is 280. That's the number I started with. Okay, so I want to simplify this and then change it to a percent. Well, 280 minus 210, see 80 minus 10 is 70. So you have 70 over 280. Okay, let's reduce this as much as possible. Well, first of all, 10 goes into 70 and 80, right? Can we agree on that? 10 goes in there 7, 10 goes in there 28. All right, so now I need to divide 28. Oh, wait a minute. 7 goes into 28, right? 7 goes into 7 once, and 7 goes into 28 4 times. So I have 1/4. I change that to a percent. Now, if you cannot do that mentally, you should be able to do that mentally. But if you cannot change this fraction to a percentage, you don't know what it is, take the top number, put it inside the box. There's the decimal, bring it straight up. 4 is on the outside. 4 doesn't go into 1, add a 0. 4 goes into 10 twice, that's 8. 2 left over, add a 0, bring it down. 4 goes into 20 5 times, right? 4 times 5 is 20, and that's it. So 0.25 is the same thing as 25%. So everyone should know that 1/4 is 25%. Okay, I'm going to skip number 11. You can do that one. I'll do one like it on the back. Number 12. It says one worker can pack 140 boxes in 7 hours. A second worker can do 20% more than that, more boxes in 10 hours. So 20% more in 10 hours. Which worker packs more boxes per hour? Okay, well, the first one can do first worker can do 140 boxes in 7 hours. Now, that can be reduced. 7 goes into 140, doesn't it? Doesn't 7 go into 14? right? 7 goes into 7 once. 7 goes into 14 twice. And so you have 20, right? 7 goes into 140 20 times. So this first worker does 20 boxes, I'll abbreviate, boxes in 1 hour. That's their rate that they do, that they pack. Okay, so this is worker 1. Worker 2 can do 20% more, 20% more boxes in 10 hours. 20% more than 140. 20% more than 140. So what we need to do is figure out 20% of 140, and that will be this number up here, right? Or actually 140 plus 20%. So we need to find 140 plus 20% of 140. Okay, that's what we need. 140 plus 20% of 140. And that will be this top number here. So instead of multiplying it all out, I know that 10% of 140, I just move the decimal over, is 14. 10% is 14. 10% of 140 is 14. Right? And 14 of 14 is 28. That means 20% of 140 is 28. So if the second worker can do 140 boxes plus 28 more, plus 20% more. So 140 and 28 is 168. So he can pack 168 boxes in 10 hours. Because that is 20% more than 140. Now we just need to reduce this, and then we can see who can do the most. Now wait a minute. If it's divided by 10, isn't it just a matter of being 16.8? I'm going to take that liberty and think that you know this. Okay, if I take 168 divided by 10, that's 16.8. So he can do 16.8 boxes in 1 hour. That's his rate. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the paper over. Okay, remember on the back side, again, show your steps for all problems. Okay, I'm going to do you can do number 13, I'll do number 14. Here's two parallelograms. They are similar. Notice the symbol there, similar. Find the value of C. So if they're similar, we can use proportions. So if we look at the small parallelogram, we see that we have a ratio of 9 over 13. On this side, we have 9. By the way, 9 is the same as C on the big one. And 13 matches up with 65 on the big one. Okay, so 9 over 13 is equal to C over 65. And remember, the shortcut to setting these up is whatever's diagonal of the variable goes on the bottom. So this number here goes on the bottom, and these other two numbers go on top. Okay, now we simply reduce. Okay, 13 will go into 65, because 13 times 5 is 65. 13 goes in here once, 13 goes in there 5. So now we just have 9 times 5. The answer is 45. So C is 45. This one right here is 45. Let's go to 15. It says a sporting goods store pays $150 for a rubber raft. The percent of markup is 40%. Find the raft's selling price. So they start off with $150, and then they're going to add 40% of $150 and sell it to you. So what I'll do is to find 40% of $150, if you want to, You can say 150 times 0.40. You can do that way. The shorter method is just take 10% 4 times. 10% of 150 is 15. You just move the decimal over one space. 15. Right? 10% is 15. So 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. That's 40%. 15, 15, 15, and 15 is, see, that's 30 and 30. That makes 60. So 40% of 50 is $60. So I'm going to have 150 plus 60. Okay, because that's our markup. That's 40% of 150. So the answer is, what's 150 and 60? It's 210. So the selling price is 210. That's $210. Store buys it at 150. They jack it up 40%. So that's going to add on another $60. You have to pay $210. Number 16, you have a building 59 feet high, and it has a shadow of 118 feet. So building's 59 feet, the shadow's 118 feet. Sarah, she cast a 6-foot shadow. So what we want to do is figure out how tall she is. It says the triangle formed by the building and its shadow is similar to the triangle formed by Sarah and her shadow. How tall is Sarah? So basically it looks like this. You have this very sad building here, and it's 59 feet tall, and it casts a 118-foot shadow. When the sun's, that almost looks like a squid or something, doesn't it? Jellyfish. All right, and then over here, you have Sarah, and we don't know how tall she is, but she casts a 6-foot shadow. Okay, so what we need to do is figure out how tall is Sarah. You know, I think I'm going to start with my x first in this corner. X over 6 is equal to 59 over 118. So there's my proportion. X over 6, 59 over 18. So I just solve for x. And if you'd like to, you just go ahead and multiply by 6 on this side. Right, because that's gone. Multiply by 6 on this side. Okay, so now I need to start reducing. What will go into 118 and 6? If you can't think, I know 2 does, so let's use 2. Half of 6 is 3. Half of 118, let's see, half of 100 is 50. Half of 18 is 9, so it'd be 59. Hey, this is working out beautifully for us, because now I have 59 over here and 59 down here. So 59 goes in here once, 59 going in here once, and you are left with just 3. 3. So what does that mean about Sarah? Sarah's only 3 feet tall. Okay, to make it a percent, I'll just take the top. It's already reduced as much as possible. Take the top number, put it in the box. Bring the decimal straight up. Add a 0 if you're going to need it, which you are. Let's see, 40 into 170. 4 goes in as 17. 4 times 4 is 16, so it must go in about 4 times. So let's try that. Let's try 4. Right, because 4 doesn't go into 17, but it does 170. Let's try 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 4 is 16. 160. Subtract that. That gives me 10. Add a 0. Bring it down. 100. 40 goes into 100 twice. Right? 2 times 40 is 80. And that's going to give me 20 left over. Excuse me there. That gives me 20 left over. And so it looks like it's going to repeat itself, right? I'm going to add a 0. It goes down here. No, it's not going to repeat itself, is it? Okay, let's see. 20. So I add a 0. I'm sorry. 40 goes into 200. 4 goes into 20 5 times, so it must be 5. 5 times 40 is 200. So 425. So my percent is, sorry about that, my percent, I move the decimal over twice. It's 42.5%. Or you could say 43%. I probably should just round it off to 43. Okay, you can do 21 on your own. Let's slide on over to 22. Remember, there's a couple of ways of doing this. Sometimes if it's nice and neat, like 3 goes into 330, you can just multiply it out. 33 times 10 is 330. So you multiply the top by 10. And we have 2 times 10 is 20. So x must be 20. And if you didn't know that, you'd set it up where the number diagonal goes on the bottom. The other two numbers go on top. And you can see that 33 goes into 330. 33 goes in there once. 330 goes in there 10 times. 2 times 10 is 20. So the answer is 20.